terms of how recently have I studied the Constitution, I've been doing some reading in it off and on during this election cycle. There's been many questions regarding the Constitution, and I think relative to my responsibility as an elected official within the city of Highland, I have a responsibility to make sure that I follow both the U.S. as well as the Utah Constitution in representing the citizens of Highland. I think it's critical that I spend the time and work with residents to understand what the issues are, both in terms of those in favor as well as those that are opposed to issues, so that we truly do have representative government, so that we're not acting in our self-interest. I think it's critical that we make sure that we're acting for the benefit of all the residents of Highland, that we protect private property rights, that we protect the interests of the citizens so that they all benefit, so that we all benefit for what we're trying to do as a city, so that we gain unity as well as an effort to grow and develop together so that we maintain the beauty and the value of our property as well as our surroundings.
I love the Constitution, and I think we need to get back as a nation to the roots in the Constitution. I'm descended from one of the old families in America. My family came to America in 1633. I share lineage with several people who were the founding fathers and presidents of the United States, and I'm proud of that. This is a land of great freedom. I've been studying the Constitution off and on during this election. I have some books on it, and I've read through different things, mainly because I know Tom Butler would ask us about it. But I love the Constitution, and as a member of the city government, we do uphold the Constitution. And I believe in representative government. And it's an honor and a privilege to live in a land of freedom where we can meet together in a group like this tonight. I mean, I know many of you disagree with me on some issues, but we're here as fellow citizens because we love this country and because of the Constitution. I believe it's divine. I believe it is incredibly important for the freedom of the world.
This afternoon I reread the First Amendment to the Constitution, and it says that the government shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. And why would I bring that up? It's interesting that some of those questions came up when the town was looking at the Sunday opening law, worrying about whether or not that was a constitutional thing to do. And I think that it's important to realize that that is a constitutional right, that citizens can, or cities and counties can, enact Sunday clothing laws. It does not establish, it does not prohibit exercise of religion, nor does it establish or support any one denomination. So the Constitution is a marvelous document, and we can rely upon it when looking at some of the ordinances that we consider.
You mean this Constitution?
That's the one.
That's the one. Let me tell you, it's right here. I believe in the Constitution. I follow the Constitution. I do my best to understand it as well as I can. But let me illuminate a bit my position with respect to the Constitution. As the mayor of Highland City, it is my responsibility to uphold the Constitution, but also to look out for the citizens of Highland. That's the responsibility of the City Council. We don't need message legislation. What we need is we need action. We need action that is constitutionally based. We need action that will resolve the issues that confront us all in this city. But ladies and gentlemen, we need to rest what we do on the very basis of the Constitution, which gives us all those God-given rights, which allow us to move freely in this city. those God-given rights which allow us to worship as we choose. Those God-given rights that allow us to bear arms. Those God-given rights that allow us to take a stand and to be able to stand without fear of retribution. We need to live the law of the land, but we need in the process to protect the city of Highland and to make certain that what we do is in the best interests of the citizens and makes life better.
I did really good in the 8th grade, and I've studied the Constitution regularly for all of my life. And the most basic of that is you are entitled to do as an individual whatever you want to do, as long as it doesn't infringe on someone else's right to do what they want to do. And so that being said, we have these 4 basic things that I've spoken about before, and that is this: zoning. Why do we have it? So every person that owns property has the same right to make money on their property if they want to develop it as the guy next door. Instead of saying, no, you've got to develop 5-acre parcels. Everybody else got to do 1, but you get to do 5. No, we need to protect the rights equally for everyone. If we move on to transportation, roads, they need to have a decent road to drive on because they need to be able to protect their own vehicle, and if we don't do that collectively, we don't have that right in our community. If we look at safety, law enforcement, that's what keeps the other person from doing to you what he's not entitled to do and maintain your rights. Along with fire suppression, it really doesn't matter. If you live out on 100 acres, if your house burns down, it doesn't burn anybody else's house down. Doesn't burn their house down. You don't need a fire department. But if you're close enough to burn your neighbor's house down, as a community, you're required to have fire suppression so you don't burn the whole community down. On health and safety, of course. We don't want the neighbor to run their sewer on your property or my property, so we have sanitary sewer. We want to have safe drinking water so we can all rely on the fact every time we drink it, we won't get sick and die. Those are the issues that we apply in government to why we have rules, but why you're also entitled to your own personal rights.
Well, I'm sorry, I can't resist this, but the pamphlet Constitution that Larry pulled out of his packet was produced by my dad. He hired the artist. He had 3 professors look at the Constitution and read it and make sure that it was word for word compatible with what's in there. They actually found about 60 differences between what was the Senate Constitution and what was the original. There were some things were meaningful, some weren't, but he made it right. So that's the true Constitution. Anyway, I've grown up with the Constitution. I've read books on the founders. I've read the Constitution. I've read commentaries on the Constitution. When the Sunday debate came up, I looked at it, and interestingly enough, Thomas Jefferson wrote a law for the state of Virginia after the country was founded called a law for punishing Sabbath breakers. James Madison submitted it to the legislature, and Patrick Henry signed it. So these are the framers of the Constitution who understood how it worked, and they agreed with it. Now, the Constitution applies mostly to the federal government, but what we get out of it is by studying it and studying the finders, we learn the principles behind it, and that's what we apply to the city. The state provides us the limitations that the city has on what it can do and can't do. And those are actually pretty broad. When it comes to zoning, we have a lot of latitude there. So it's up to the residents to decide how much zoning they want, how restrictive it needs to be. But as a member of the city council, I will assure you that I understand the Constitution and the principles behind it, and I will not compromise on some of those things. I don't care about public opinion on things where the constitutional principles are concerned.